I spotted my late grandmother's stolen engagement ring glinting under pawnshop lights. What I uncovered next was a three-generation feud that nearly destroyed my family. Sunlight slanted through the grimy pawnshop window onto a dusty velvet tray of jewelry. I'd come looking for a cheap lens filter, and instead, there it was, a delicate platinum band set with a rose-cut diamond that matched a faded photograph on my grandmother's dresser. My breath caught in my throat. 2 days ago, I'd been cataloging her belongings in the attic when I stumbled on the photo. My grandmother rose, radiant in a 1940s tea-length dress, her hand held out to reveal that very ring. The card read simply, "To Rose with Love, Arthur, 1942. In a haze of nostalgia, I remembered Grandma whispering, "That ring was our family's bond," until it disappeared. She'd refused to say more. Now standing before me, it glowed under fluorescent lights, silken platinum hugging a rose-cut diamond the size of a thimble top. My heart pounded. The ring Grandma mourned for decades had ended up here. I picked it up, turning it over. No markings beyond a tiny engraving inside, AR-42. Me. "Grandma, I found your ring." The pawnshop owner, a heavy-set man with a faded denim vest, saw me examining the engraving. "Owner, that one?" "Came in last week. Lady said she found it in her late aunt's jewelry box. I paid $50 for it." I snapped a picture with my phone. "Is she still around?" Owner, "Auntie Jane? Yeah, she lives on Pine Street. Told me next of kin could buy it back for triple. I'll call her." My pulse jolted. Aunt Jane, my grandmother's reclusive cousin who lived alone since her husband died, still had it. How had it traveled from Grandma Rose to Aunt Jane? What tragic twist of fate? And why pawn it now, decades later? That evening I faced Grandma Rose in her cozy kitchen. The ring lay on the Formica countertop. She regarded it with tremulous eyes. "Grandma, where did you get that?" Me. "I saw it at Martin's pawn, Grandma. Aunt Jane brought it in. What happened to it after you lost it?" Her hand shook as she reached for the ring. She tucked it into a velvet pouch and sank into her chair. "Grandma, it's a long story, one I never told your mother or your aunt." The kitchen clock ticked in the hush. Finally, she drew a deep breath. "Grandma, your great-grandfather Arthur bought that ring the day I turned 18. They married 2 months later. He left for the war. Letters came for a time, then nothing. I thought he died overseas." Me. "What about the ring?" "Grandma, I was in no shape to pay the mortgage. Your great-uncle Henry, Arthur's brother, offered to hold it, said I could reclaim it when I could afford to. But I never could, and by the time I reached out, your uncle had vanished with it." My mind raced. That was 70 years ago. Henry had disappeared along with the ring, leaving Grandma Rose and Aunt Jane, who must have inherited Henry's estate or possessions. Me. "So Aunt Jane got it from Henry's estate?" Grandma, "Yes, but when Henry died, Jane and I had a falling out over money, property, inheritance. We didn't speak for decades. She kept the ring as leverage, I suppose." Me. "Why pawn it now?" Grandma's gaze fell. "Jane's son got into trouble, gambling debt. She pawned the ring to pay his bail." The plot thickened. 3 generations ruined by money disputes, and now I had the chance to end it. But how? I needed details. Henry's disappearance, Jane's gambling-addicted son, and the legal trail that tied them together. I spent the next morning in the county recorder's office, sifting through brittle deeds and probate records. Arthur Rockwell had died in 1944, presumed lost at sea. No body recovered. His land and belongings passed to Henry, who inherited the family farm. In 1950, records show Henry sold the farmland to move to the city, then vanished. Crime blotters mentioned a Henry Rockwell arrested for embezzlement in 1952. After that, nothing. Clutching photocopies of land deeds, I called Aunt Jane. Me. "Aunt Jane, it's me. I'm doing some family history. Can we talk about the ring?" Her voice crackled. "I don't know why you're digging this up. That ring's my son's ticket out of trouble." Me. "I want to help. Tell me about your son." Silence, then a shaky confession. Her only child, David, had racked up debts. She told me to come by that afternoon. Her small bungalow smelled of mothballs and old furniture. She shooed me to a sagging couch. David's forfeiture notices strewn across the coffee table. Aunt Jane, he stole from his boss. Hundreds of thousands. They'll lock him up unless I come up with bail. She handed me the pawn ticket. It's due next week, or it's gone. Please don't tell Rose. She'll never forgive me. Me, Grandma already knows, but I want to reclaim it for her. And maybe we can help David another way. Jane hesitated, then nodded. I'll tell you everything, if you can get me bail money. That evening, Grandma, Aunt Jane, and I mapped the feud across 3 generations. Arthur's loss and presumed death, followed by Henry's inheritance and disappearance. The feud between Rose and Jane over Henry's estate intensified by also disputed family heirlooms. David's recklessness, echoing the financial ruin that began with Henry. I realized the pawned ring was just the tip of an iceberg, decades of betrayal, poverty, and bitter pride. To break the cycle, we needed to raise bail for David so Aunt Jane can reclaim the ring, mend fences between Rose and Jane, healing old wounds, uncover Henry's fate to close that chapter, return the ring to Grandma Rose and restore its legacy, ensure David's stability, preventing future scandals. I laid out the steps. Grandma squeezed my hand. Jane wiped her eyes. For the first time in years, 3 women in our family shared a common purpose. Update 1. The following morning I awoke determined. David's bail came first. Without it, the pawned ring would vanish forever and the feud would deepen. But with the ring secured, I could pivot to the larger mystery. What truly happened to Uncle Henry? I began by emailing close family and a handful of longtime family friends. Subject: urgent, help save David and our family heirloom. Body: dear all, Jane's son David sits in county lockup for unpaid embezzlement bail. His mother pawned Grandma's ring to pay it. We need $5,000 by next Wednesday. Please help. All contributions confidential. Love, Emily. Within hours, responses trickled in. Cousin Mark, I can send $1,000 tonight. Grandma's book club, we'll chip in $500. Pastor Collins, Church Benevolence Fund can cover $2,000. Your family has helped us before. By lunchtime, $3,500 had been pledged. I forwarded updates to Aunt Jane with heartfelt thanks, then turned to my savings. I called my boss at Heritage Law Partners. Me. I have a family emergency. My cousin is jailed and my grandmother's ring is at stake. I may need an advance on bonuses. She surprised me. Boss, take what you need, Emily. Family comes first. I've processed a $1,500 hardship advance. No repayment due until year's end. With that, we reached the $5,000 target. $3,500 from family and friends. $1,500 advance from my firm. I breathed a sigh of relief and texted Aunt Jane. All funds raised. I'll meet you at the pawn shop at 4 p.m. to redeem the ring. At Martin's Pawn on Oak Street, the David's ticket fluttered on the counter next to the dusty tray. The owner recognized me immediately. Owner, back so soon? I laid the $5,000 in crisp bills onto the glass. He counted, slid the ring into a small velvet box, and placed it before us with a soft click. Me. Thank you. Aunt Jane clutched the box. I can't believe it. Owner. Pleasure doing business with family. As Jane slipped the ring into her purse, I felt the tension lift. One generation's debt had been repaid, but the feud and Henry's disappearance still cast a shadow. That evening, I returned to the recorder's office to dig deeper into Henry's records. In addition to the 1950 farm sale, a series of court dockets caught my eye. 1952, arraignment, Henry Rockwell pleaded guilty to embezzlement at the Old Mill Bank. Fine imposed, no jail time. 1953, missing persons report, filed by family friend Martha Caldwell. Henry last seen boarding the Northern train to Chicago. 1955, insurance claim, a settlement paid to H. Rockwell after a house fire in Cook County, Illinois. The documents suggested Henry traveled to Chicago, suffered a setback, embezzlement fine, and later encountered tragedy, house fire, but his trail went cold after 1955. I photocopied the insurance claim file and returned home, mind-whirling. Perhaps old newspapers or county archives in Chicago would shed light on Henry's fate. Late at night, I searched the Chicago Tribune archives online. My eyes widened when I found a small item dated July 3, 1955. Local house fire claims life of H. Rockwell. Chicago Tribune, page B12. Fire in a rented bungalow on Elm Street resulted in one fatality, identified only as H. Rockwell, age 30. No next of kin named. Heart-pounding, I printed the clipping. The following day, I contacted the Cook County Coroner's Office. Me. I believe an H. Rockwell died in a house fire July 1955. I'm his great-granddaughter and seeking confirmation. Coroner clerk. Let me check. Yes. A Henry Rockwell, age 30, died in a June 30th fire. No family identified, remains unclaimed. My great-uncle Henry hadn't fled. He died alone, his body buried in a potter's field. The ring Grandma Rose never reclaimed apparently passed into Aunt Jane's hands via Henry's estate settlement, an opaque legal transfer she never fully explained. That evening, Aunt Jane and I met in Grandma's living room. I laid out the newspaper clipping and coroner's notice. Me. Henry didn't disappear by choice. He died in that fire. That's why Grandma never saw him again, and why you inherited his things. Jane's eyes glistened. I didn't know. Grandma said Henry vanished. She never mentioned the fire. Me. She never told us the truth. That secrecy fueled the feud. Jane clutched the velvet ring box. I'm so sorry. I took her hand. We can't change the past, but we can heal now. Let's return the ring to Grandma. Together. Over the next 2 days, Jane and I planned a surprise meeting with Grandma Rose. Venue, Grandma's living room, where she first told us the story. Guests, just the three of us, no one else to keep it intimate. I reviewed the story's arc in my mind, from seized heirloom to pawnshop, from familial feud to hidden tragedy, culminating in reconciliation. Update 2. The late afternoon sun slanted through Grandma Rose's lace curtains as Aunt Jane and I set up a small tea service. A silver tray held delicate cups of chamomile, a porcelain teapot steamed gently, and on a lace handkerchief lay the platinum ring, its diamond catching stray beams like buried hope. Grandma Rose shuffled into her living room, her cane tapping softly on the hardwood floor. She paused, blinked at the tableau, then looked from Jane to me in dawning realization. Grandma, is that? Jane rose, voice trembling with apology and relief. Grandma, it's yours. I'm sorry it took me so long and that we let pride keep us apart. Grandma's hands trembled as she reached for the handkerchief. When her fingers closed around the ring, tears welled in her eyes. Grandma, my precious ring, I thought I'd never see it again. She lifted it, turned it over, then slipped it onto her finger. A stillness settled over the room, punctuated only by soft sobs and the clink of teacups. Grandma, my girls, you brought me back more than just a trinket. I crossed to her side, gently taking her hand. We're a family. No feud can undo that. Over tea and lemon squares, Grandma Rose, Aunt Jane, and I wove the story together for the first time. Arthur's love, how he gifted the ring in 1942, only to vanish in war. Henry's burden, how Uncle Henry, Arthur's brother, assumed the family farm and the ring's custody, then suffered the embezzlement scandal of 1952. Henry's fate, the tragic 1955 fire in Chicago that claimed his life, a fact Grandma learned only recently from me. Jane's hardship, how Aunt Jane inherited the ring by legal default, then surrendered it for David's bail. With each revelation, they leaned closer, healing tears washing away decades of misunderstanding. Grandma, I never blamed you, Jane. I blamed sorrow and war, and forgot that families can lose track of each other. Jane, I was ashamed to tell you. I thought I owed you, but I only hurt us both. I pressed Grandma's hand, smiling through my own tears. We're together now. After the ring was secure, we formalized our bond with a simple pact. We commit to honesty, forgiveness, and unity, never again letting pride or secrecy tear us apart. Grandma, Jane, and I each initialed the pact on a small card, then sealed it in an envelope marked Family Forever. Grandma tucked it into her favorite leather-bound Bible for safekeeping. Grandma, this ring and this pact will remind us we belong to each other. With the ring home and the feud laid to rest, our focus shifted back to David. He'd been released on bail, housed at Aunt Jane's until his court date. That afternoon, Jane invited Grandma and me to meet him in her cozy den. David, sunken-eyed and remorseful, rose as we entered. Jane. "Mom, Emily, this is David." David stepped forward, voice cracking. "I'm sorry for everything, for pawning Grandma's ring, for the trouble I caused. I never meant to hurt you." Grandma reached out, placing the ring box on David's hand. "You did what you had to do, child. We love you." I outlined a plan for David's restitution, community service, a repayment schedule from a small trust Grandma set up, and enrollment in a financial counseling program. David nodded gratefully. "David, I'll make it right, I promise." Over the next week, I worked with the County Historical Society to place a small grave marker on the unmarked Potter's Field plot where Henry lay. Grandma and Jane joined me as a simple headstone was set. Henry Rockwell, loving brother and uncle, 1925 to 1955. We placed fresh flowers and stood in quiet tribute. For the first time, our family acknowledged Henry's life and death, a final act of respect that Grandma said freed her heart. With all threads tied, we celebrated with a small family gathering at Grandma's. The ring glittered on her hand, the pact nestled safely in her Bible, and Jane's home echoed with laughter rather than old resentments. I realized that this journey, unearthing war, scandal, and loss, had led us to deeper understanding and unity. Update 3. In the days that followed, the three of us felt a lightness we hadn't known in decades. Yet Grandma Rose, ever the matriarch, wanted to turn our private healing into public good. Over tea one afternoon, she revealed a new idea. "Grandma, this ring has carried our history, war, loss, feud, redemption. I want its story to help others, not just our family. Let's build a Rose Legacy Fund to support young women in need, like I once was." Her words sparked something profound. We agreed to create a small nonprofit honoring family resilience. The Rose Legacy Fund would: scholarships for girls from broken homes to attend college, jewelry workshops teaching local artisans the craft of heirloom repair, restoring both objects and spirits, oral history programs preserving elders' stories so no truths remain buried. Grandma asked me to handle the legal paperwork. Jane would manage fundraising. I'd enlist David, now committed to turning his life around, to curate the oral histories. By the end of the week, Jane and I had filed nonprofit articles and secured a modest donor-matching grant from the local Heritage Foundation. We rented a small storefront adjacent to Aunt Jane's home for our headquarters. Inside, we hung Grandma's wedding photograph, ring pictured proud, and a display case secured Grandma's ring under glass with a plaque recounting its journey. The first public event was scheduled for 2 weeks later. Rings of Resilience, a community gathering featuring story circles, elder volunteers sharing personal tales of hardship and hope, live demonstrations, local jewelers showing ring repair and restoration techniques, scholarship pledges, attendees encouraged to sponsor a Rose Scholar. We printed flyers, rose-colored borders, and an illustration of interlocked hands around a diamond, and distributed them across town. On launch night, the storefront glowed with candles and soft string lights. More than 100 people, neighbors, church members, even investors from my law firm network, gathered inside. At the podium, Grandma Rose, frail but radiant, tapped the microphone. "Grandma, welcome to our first Rings of Resilience. This project honors my grandmother's legacy, the love Arthur gave me, the loss Henry suffered, the burdens Jane and David bore, and the strength we found together. May it inspire you to share your own stories." Jane then shared her speech. "Jane, I once held this ring out of duty and bitterness. Today, we release it to service and compassion. Thank you for supporting our mission." I concluded with details on how to apply for scholarships and volunteer sign-ups. David manned the sign-up table, greeting guests warmly, his confidence a visible testament to change. By night's end, we'd raised $12,000 in scholarship pledges and lined up 3 volunteer jewelers for the workshop series. More importantly, the community embraced our story, proof that a single heirloom could heal widespread wounds. Inspired by the event, David re-engaged with his financial counseling program and took on a leadership role at the fund. He helped record oral histories at the local senior center, interviewing veterans, immigrants, and survivors, preserving their voices on audio and video archives. One afternoon, he introduced me to Mr. Patel, an 82-year-old former watchmaker whose family had fled partition. The stories intertwined, broken rings and broken lives, and the redemptive power of shared memory. Mr. Patel, your grandmother's war ring reminds me of my own father's pocket watch, lost in chaos. Thank you for remembering us. David smiled. It's why we do this. As autumn yielded to winter, Grandma Rose visited our storefront weekly, smiling at restored rings, watching scholarship applications roll in from young women seeking college tuition. She confided, "Grandma, I never thought my pain would bloom like this. I feel Arthur's pride, Henry's peace, Jane's forgiveness, and our family's future shining bright. Jane, we were strangers for too long. Now I see Rose in me, and Emily in both of you. This fund binds us stronger than any feud." I realized our three-generation arc had come full circle, from love to loss to healing, and now to a legacy of hope for others. With the Rose Legacy Fund flourishing, 3 scholarship recipients selected, the first ring repair workshop underway, and dozens of oral histories archived, we sensed the final chapter approaching. We would mark the fund's 1-year anniversary with a public gala, celebrating not just Grandma's ring, but every restored heart it symbolized. And so, as snow began to dust the storefront's eaves, we prepared for one last gathering, the Circle of Diamonds Anniversary Gala, where the ring's story would shine brightest, closing our own family's saga and opening countless new ones. Update 4. 1 year to the day after Grandma Rose first set her ring on the velvet tray, the Rose Legacy Fund prepared to host its Circle of Diamonds Anniversary Gala at the historic City Hall Ballroom. The event was more than a celebration. It would formally introduce the first cohort of Rose scholars, showcase the success of our jewelry workshops, and reinforce the power of intergenerational healing. Weeks before the gala, Aunt Jane and I oversaw every detail. Venue transformation, towering crystal chandeliers draped in rose vines, heirloom photos lining the walls, and a central display case holding Grandma's ring under protective glass. Program booklet, printed on pearlescent stock, featuring the fund's mission, founder bios, and profiles of our first 3 scholars, each a young woman overcoming hardship through education. Musical performance, a local string quartet playing a modern arrangement of Rose of Trolley and For Good, from Wicked, chosen for its themes of transformation and friendship. Invitations had gone to donors, scholarship recipients, community leaders, and press. RSVPs surged, over 300 confirmed, reflecting the fund's broad appeal and the ring's enduring symbolism. As guests settled, I stepped to the podium. Beside me stood our first 3 scholars: Isabella, a first-generation college student studying social work, Mai, daughter of refugee parents pursuing mechanical engineering, and Sophia, a displaced youth champion focused on restorative justice. Me, tonight we honor not one but many diamonds, these young women whose brilliance, like Grandma's ring, symbolizes enduring hope. Each scholar then shared her story. Isabella, when my mother lost her job, college seemed a dream. This scholarship made it real and reminded me that family can be chosen through compassion. My parents fled war with nothing. The Rose Fund support means I can repair machines and communities alike. Sophia, I was lost to the juvenile system until this fund showed me that mistakes don't define us. As they spoke, the room warmed with applause. Grandma Rose, seated in the front row, dabbed her eyes with a lace handkerchief. Next, Aunt Jane guided guests through a live demo of the Heirloom repair workshop. Local jeweler Sarah Chen demonstrated how a tarnished locket could be polished and reborn. Craft tables invited attendees to sketch their own heirloom design, a symbolic exercise in healing. Before and after displays showed rings, brooches, and watch faces, restored by program participants. A hush fell as attendees tried their hand at delicate soldering under Sarah's guidance. Conversations buzzed. I never knew the care behind family treasures, and this workshop means more than metal. Following dinner, rosé poached salmon and heirloom beet salad, Grandma Rose took the stage, supported by Jane and me. Grandma, this ring began a story of love and loss. You turned it into a legacy of generosity. Thank you. We then unveiled the next phase of the fund, a $50,000 matching grant challenge to double our scholarship pool and launch a mobile repair van that would bring workshops to rural seniors. A live pledge drive commenced. Phones lit up with donor texts, and within minutes, the match was met. The ballroom erupted in cheers. Glasses clinked as guests toasted to the fund's future. As the string quartet played softly, Grandma Rose, Aunt Jane, and I slipped outside onto the marble steps. The city skyline glowed behind us. Grandma, you've turned my sorrow into a shining beacon. Jane, we're all connected, by genes, by choice, by compassion. Me, this ring's journey taught us that even the deepest wounds can yield purpose. Now we pass that lesson forward. We hugged beneath the stars, knowing the next morning would bring new scholarship applications, workshop schedules, and stories to preserve. But tonight, our three-generation family stood united, proof that a pawned ring could spark a revolution of hope. Update 5. The crisp winter morning air carried excitement as the Rose Legacy Fund's new mobile repair van, a restored 1950s delivery truck painted in rose gold filigree, rolled out of its storefront garage. Aunt Jane stood at the wheel. Grandma Rose waved from the doorway, and I carried a small box of tools and heirloom fragments. Our Rings of Resilience tour was underway, and rural communities awaited our arrival. Over the next 3 days, the mobile workshop visited 3 towns. Millbrook, population 2,300. We set up in the public library's parking lot. Local seniors arrived with broken lockets and tarnished brooches. As jeweler Sarah Chen guided attendees through soldering and polishing, I recorded their stories, like Mrs. Alvarez, whose wedding band had cracked during her daughter's birth in 1965, and Mr. Singh, who brought a family heirloom passed down from his grandfather's service in World War I. Pine Hill, population 1,800, hosted at the community center. Teens from the local high school joined as assistants, learning bench skills and interviewing elders. They filmed short videos. My grandma's ring taught me resilience. Their energy was infectious. One student exclaimed, "I want to be a jeweler now." Riverton, population 3,100. We partnered with the local women's shelter. Survivors brought broken earrings and faded pins, symbols of lives rebuilt. Over warm tea, they shared stories of survival and hope, a testament to the fund's mission beyond a material repair. By each stop, we distributed scholarship flyers to graduating seniors and collected oral histories for the fund's archive. The van's back became a traveling museum, restored pieces under glass alongside portraits of the original Rose Ring's journey. News of the tour spread quickly. A local newspaper ran a feature, Road to Resilience, How a Heirloom Heals Generations, prompting invitations. Harmony Village, a retirement community, asked for a one-day pop-up workshop. Greenwood County Fair offered us a tent at its spring festival to share our story. 3 neighboring towns reached out to collaborate on a Legacy Loop tour next fall, offering matching grants for restoration materials. Even beyond our region, the State Historical Society contacted us to co-sponsor a touring exhibit on heirlooms and heritage, leveraging our oral history recordings to enrich their archives. Meanwhile, word of mouth among nonprofits led the National Coalition for Senior Arts to invite Grandma Rose to serve on their advisory board, celebrating her leadership at age 94. The first Rose scholars, Isabella, Mai, and Sophia, joined us for the final tour day at Riverton. They staffed the sign-up table, guided teens in video editing, and spoke on a panel, From Heirlooms to Hope. Their presence energized both the fund's brand and the students in attendance. That evening, we held a small reception in the van's converted lounge area. Isabella announced, "Isabella, this tour showed me that stories, like stones, can be polished into purpose. I'm launching a mentorship circle for next year's applicants, helping fellow scholars navigate college life." Mai shared plans to fund a mechanical scholarship focusing on sustainable design, inspired by our mobile workshop's retrofitted van. Sophia declared her intention to host restorative justice dialogues alongside our oral history initiatives, ensuring that the fund's healing work extended beyond metal and stone to human relationships. Their initiatives drew pledges from local businesses. A welding supply store offered free materials for the next tour, and a regional college promised a tech grant to digitize our oral archives. Back in the quiet of our storefront, Grandma Rose reflected on the whirlwind. "Grandma, I never imagined an engagement ring could blossom into a movement. Seeing 3 young women lead the next phase, there's nothing more precious." Aunt Jane, now confident in her role as fund treasurer, added, "Jane, rebuilding the ring taught me that inheritance isn't just property, it's responsibility. I'm proud to serve our community." David, volunteering as our van's driver and archivist, approached me. "David, I used to think the ring was a burden. Now I know it's a bridge, connecting generations, restoring dignity, and inspiring futures." I embraced him, heart full. 3 generations had found renewal and begun to pass it forward. With the tour's success, we turned our sights to the upcoming Circle of Diamonds 1-year anniversary gala, a larger event at City Hall we planned to unveil. A documentary featuring the mobile tour highlights. Announcements of 25 new Rose Scholars, funded by matching grants secured on tour. A virtual reality experience of the oral history recordings, so donors could step into elders' memories. Invitations would extend nationally, inviting policymakers, philanthropists, and the press to witness how a pawned ring sparked an intergenerational legacy. As winter frost settled outside, our heated workshop hummed with activity, restoring heirlooms, rehearsing speeches, and editing the documentary. The rose ring lay in its glass case, ever the star, reminding us why we embarked on this journey. In the end, the ring's diamond refracted more than light. It reflected every story of loss and renewal, proving that even the smallest heirloom can ignite a revolution of compassion.